A black belt coach, a gym full of eyes waiting for a joke, and a simple woman, called up only to be humiliated in front of the whole class. They laughed when she fell. They whispered, "This is why soccer moms shouldn't play fighter." No one knew her name. No one cared to ask who she used to be before they decided she didn't belong there. But in the next 13 seconds, she shut the whole system down, not with a scream, but with precision, discipline, and a devastating submission hold. Don't look away. This story isn't just about Jiu Jitsu. It's a wake-up call to anyone who's ever been underestimated, for being quiet, for being plain, for not fitting the mold. And it's the reason you'll never look at the person next to you the same way again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Alive Stories. Today's story is about a simple woman who was ridiculed at Jiu Jitsu class, then submitted a black belt in 13 seconds. Let's get started. Columbus, Ohio. Wednesday, 6:04 p.m. Advanced Jiu Jitsu class at Valor Combat Gym, a prestigious martial arts academy located in the middle of a quiet office district. The smell of sweat, muscle balm, and rubber training mats mixed into a familiar kind of air. On the wall, medals and photos of fighters hung in rows like evidence of rank. In the middle of the room, Bryce Calder, a black belt, a former MMA fighter, was nearly 6'3" and muscular, his hands still wrapped in white tape. He called out loudly, "Ellis, get up here!" Everyone turned around from the far corner of the room. A small framed woman with brown hair tied low stood up. Kara Ellis. She didn't hurry. Nothing stood out. A faded training gi, frayed wrists, no patch, no slogan. No one knew she was over 40. No one thought she was anything special. "We're going to demonstrate shoulder control technique," Bryce said loudly, his eyes sweeping across the class. "This is something people often get wrong. Many think they understand it, but they're just pretending." A few scoffing laughs. One female student whispered, "This is going to be good." Kara stepped into the center of the mat. She bowed slightly, said nothing. Bryce didn't bow back. He turned, wrapped his arm around her shoulder, then suddenly swept her right leg. A dry thud echoed as Kara's body slammed into the mat. Her back arched, and the breath forced out of her lungs. A few people hissed, not out of concern, but out of satisfaction. "You see that?" Bryce turned to the class, as if he had just taken down a real opponent. "That's what happens when you don't learn the basics. Some people just don't belong on the mat." The whole class burst out laughing. Someone raised a phone to record. A young student smirked mockingly. Loud enough to be heard, "This is why soccer moms shouldn't play fighter." Kara stayed still for a few seconds. Then she pushed with her arms and slowly sat up. No complaining, no looking at anyone. Her right hand gently pulled her gi back into place, subtly covering a silver necklace that had slipped out from her collar, a military dog tag. She stood straight and adjusted her belt. No one noticed. Bryce folded his arms and stepped back half a step. "Let's move on. Ellis, you can join the sidelines, or better yet, take notes." Kara didn't respond. She just bowed her head, softly, like wind brushing over gravel. "We'll see." No one asked if she was hurt. No one stepped forward. They laughed. They filmed. And they continued the class. And Kara stepped off the mat as if nothing had happened. But no one in the room knew. The people who had mocked her that day had picked the wrong person to laugh at. 3 months earlier, a Monday morning in Powell, Ohio, a quiet suburb about 40-minute drive from Columbus. A ground floor apartment in an old complex. No plants, no doormat. Inside, an electronic clock beeped at 4:45 a.m. Kara Ellis had been awake 10 minutes earlier. She didn't set an alarm. She didn't need to anymore. That habit had been drilled into her bones since the early years of military training. She brewed black coffee in a scratched old pot, poured it into a moss-green ceramic mug with a U.S. Air Force Never Off-Duty logo, an old cup, unchipped, zero. Like her. Kara sat quietly by the window, looking through the fog glass out onto a concrete yard wet with dew. There was nothing special about this place. A row of old cars, blue plastic trash bins, and 2 stray cats that often wandered nearby. She didn't need special, just normal. Kara had once been a U.S. Air Force training sergeant and specializing in hand-to-hand instruction for special combat units. 8 years of service, 2 deployments to Syria, a sudden accident, a supply truck hit by an IED, left knee injury, 3 surgeries. Career ended in a single blast. She didn't complain, didn't sue, just quietly withdrew, like those trained to retreat in order. But what remained wasn't just a scar. It was the emptiness of someone who once knew as clearly who she was, now forced to rewrite the entire definition. Her husband, Evan, was also military, a helicopter pilot. They met at Travis Air Base and married between shifts, between jet engines and folding cots. They thought they'd walk the same road together. But after Kara was injured, everything changed. Evan left the service, got a civilian job, and adapted. Kara did not. "I can't live with someone who's always on a mission," he said. One February morning, Evan left his wedding ring in the key bowl and moved out. Kara didn't hold him back. She just quietly changed the locks. After that, Kara moved to Powell and started working as a rehab specialist at a veterans center in Dublin. No one at the center knew she had served as a training instructor. They only knew she was a good listener, had steady hands when adjusting joints, and eyes that didn't judge. Jiu Jitsu came to Kara like a late calling. She had once taught close combat, but had never trained in the formal civilian way. Now, having lost her career, her marriage, and part of her body, Kara wanted to start over, not to beat anyone, but to see how long she could still stay with herself. She found Valor Combat Gym after seeing an ad at a coffee shop. Modern website, reputable coaching team, tuition above average, but Kara accepted. She didn't talk about her past. No need. She enrolled in the beginner's class, arrived on time, and left early. Kept quiet, did the techniques right. After 6 weeks, a coach moved her to the advanced group. A decision not welcomed. From the very first day in the new class, Kara noticed Bryce Calder, the head coach, doubtful, sarcastic, judgmental. "We don't do cute cardio here," he once said. Without looking directly at her, Kara bowed her head, didn't respond. She knew that look from people who believed female soldiers only exist to dress up propaganda. She kept attending, trained more at home, read technical manuals, and combined physical therapy with close quarter movement. In class, she wasn't outstanding, but made no mistakes. She didn't show off, didn't react, and that made her a thorn in the side of someone who needed to be looked up to in order to feel big. Bryce didn't know. The class didn't know. But she was waiting for the right moment. Every morning, before leaving home, Kara still wore her husband's silver dog tag next to her own. They always tapped softly against each other, like a final reminder, "You won't walk this road with me." But I still have to walk, and she walked, step by step, class by class, bruise by bruise. 3 days after that class, Kara arrived early as usual. The room was still empty. The yellow glow of fluorescent lights reflected off the glossy black mats. She laid out a towel and began stretching. Shoulder joints, hip mobility, breathing control. At 6:02, Bryce walked in. No greeting, no eye contact, just headed straight into the technique room and shut the door. Kara wasn't surprised. When class began, Bryce split the group as usual, pairs, then trios, then groups of 4. And Kara Ellis, "Just observe today, this technique isn't suitable for those still recovering their conditioning." No one asked, no one questioned it. Kara nodded, slid her mat aside, and sat down, silently observing. The next week, when a new student signed up, a young woman with dyed purple hair and a brand name Jai, Kara offered a friendly smile and greeting. The girl just shrugged. "Are you like an assistant?" During sparring, when Kara asked to partner with someone, a male student stepped back, visibly uncomfortable. "We need someone who can actually train at full speed." Bryce stood nearby. He didn't step in, didn't say a word, just shot Kara a cold glance, then looked away. In the locker room, Kara's towel went missing 3 times. Her shoes were shoved toward the toilet stall. Her water bottle had its cap loosened. One day, when she opened her locker, she found a folded piece of paper inside. "If you can't roll, don't waste the mat." Kara didn't tell anyone. She folded the note, put it in her pocket, and continued training. Every Monday, Kara still worked as a physical therapist at the Veterans Center. Men marked by bullets, surgeries, and silence. She helped them move again, learn to breathe, to bend, to endure. No one there knew Kara was being dismissed every evening. And at Valor Combat Gym, no one knew Kara had once trained soldiers like them. Bryce grew more blatant. During a side control drill, when Kara suggested a variation for shorter practitioners, Bryce said loudly, "Let's leave the coaching to actual instructors." "Okay." Laughter erupted from the group of guys in the back. One whispered, "I swear she Googled that movie." The first video showed up on TikTok, a clip of Kara struggling in a drill. The footage intentionally slowed down with mocking background music and captioned, "Mom went rogue in Jiu Jitsu class." A week later, 3 more clips surfaced, taken from the gym's training camera. Someone had trimmed and posted them, all focused on Kara's clumsiness, cleverly edited with no context. The fourth video reached 7 million views one day. Kara entered the gym. Posted on the announcement board was a printout from one of the videos, a freeze frame of her getting thrown. With a red Sharpie caption, "Technique gone wrong, lesson of the week." She took it down, didn't tear it, didn't react, just folded it and put it in her jacket pocket. That night, Bryce addressed the class, "Jiu-Jitsu isn't for everyone. And honestly, some people here need to ask themselves, are you learning or just existing on the mat?" His eyes passed over Kara. No name needed. Everyone understood. Kara kept attending class, kept her movements precise, kept bowing before and after every session. But no one partnered with her anymore. When Bryce gave out paired drills, students automatically found each other. Kara was left over. Every time. One evening at the end of the month, Bryce ended class with an announcement about a fee increase for students requiring advanced technical support. Kara was the only one who received the extra invoice, $60 a month. She didn't question it, just transferred the payment on time. No one else was charged. Off the mats, Bryce kept jabbing at her during gym tours for new students. And yes, we do allow all skill levels, even if some never really progress. A new student glanced at Kara and smirked. Is she like the example of what not to do one afternoon? Kara was sitting at a cafe near the gym. 2 former classmates walked in and stood at the counter, unaware she was behind them. "Did you see that sad attempt at the triangle last night? Bryce says she's the reason we're losing reputation." No standards. Kara stood up and walked out. Didn't look back. The barista, a young woman, followed her out, pressing a fresh coffee into her hands. "No charge. Don't let those boys break you," she said quietly. Some people can't handle quiet strength. Back home, Kara pulled her belt from her bag. She opened her phone and played an old video she was sparring with a young soldier on a dusty training ground in 2015. She didn't watch to remember glory. She watched to remind herself she had done this when real lives were on the line. A week later, she returned to class as usual. Bryce tossed her a rag and a spray bottle. "Since you're not sweating enough on the mat, might as well clean it." No one laughed. But no one stopped it either. Kara bowed her head and took it, wiping down each square of the mat with resolve. When class ended, a figure stood leaning in the doorway. An old man with gray hair, wearing fingerless gloves, familiar eyes. "You're Ellis, yes, Bob Chavez. Heard you were getting rusty. Depends who's watching." I watch differently. Class continued as if there had never been a disruption. Bryce still led, the students still focused, laughed on cue, and bowed at the right times. Kara still sat on the sidelines, wiped mats, packed up gear, and returned to her silence. But something had changed. Kara didn't resist, didn't argue, but her eyes began remembering. The way Bryce's hips leaned off balance when entering stance. His left shoulder was noticeably weaker during triangle transitions, which top students feared grappling, who lacked wrestling fundamentals, who secretly filmed with their phones, who mimicked her movements behind her back. Kara wasn't learning to become the best. She observed like someone who had seen real battlefields, where 1 second of distraction could be your last mistake. She trained early mornings, alone, at a public sports court 4 blocks from home. Cold wind, cement ground. No one clapped when she twisted her hips, dropped her shoulders, and rolled in silence. She recorded herself, rewatched, took notes, repeated, on Saturdays and Sundays. Kara went to the community center in the city's south side, where Bob Chavez, a retired Air Force colonel, taught a small group of veterans combat grappling. No AC, no mirrors, no name tags. Just people who had once sat in surgery chairs, suffered memory loss from close blasts, and buried best friends mid-mission. Bob looked at Kara the way an officer sees a soldier who hasn't quit. You've still got fire, you just keep it under. That's the only way it burns clean. They trained quietly for 6 weeks. No one outside the center knew Kara was there. She didn't share what was happening at Valor Gym. But when Bob asked, "Why do you stay where they don't want you?" she answered, "Because I need to know how far they'll go and how far I won't." In the middle of class at Valor Gym, Bryce suddenly called Kara to the mat. "Ellis, since you've had so much time to watch, show us the double leg takedown." She stepped forward, calm, bent her knees, took position. Bryce smirked. "Don't worry, I'll go easy on you." He shifted to the left, a deliberate opening, a trap. But Kara didn't take the bait. She adjusted her footing, but didn't engage. I just held my proper stance and then stepped back. "I was taught not to fall for invitations," she said quietly. After class, Claire and the female student who had often mocked Kara approached as Kara was putting on her shoes. "You know, it's weird. You don't seem rattled." "I've been rattled," Kara replied, "just not by people like this." Claire blinked, then stepped away. Kara started becoming more intimidating in her silence. She didn't smile, didn't frown. But when Bryce got a technique wrong, she didn't just notice, she corrected it with a glance. During a shoulder lock drill, Kara stepped over to a student wincing in pain and whispered, "Turn your elbow 30 degrees, he's torquing it wrong." Bryce heard, stopped in place. Kara didn't apologize, didn't step back. She just nodded at the student, then walked away. When Bryce deliberately ignored her during the team meeting before the regional tournament, Kara sat in the corner, quietly taking notes. But as the group dispersed, a young student came over. "You wrote all those corrections just watching us. That's what you do when no one lets you train." Kara replied, "You learn by watching, then you make them regret not letting you try." At home, Kara opened her laptop and completed the registration for the Grapple Midwest Open, Women's Division, Blue Belt, over 35. She knew Bryce had never officially acknowledged her belt rank. On paper, Kara was still a white belt, but she didn't register through Valor Gym. She used her old military training unit code, verified by Bob Chavez, a legally authorized training officer. In the attached email, Bob wrote, "This candidate taught me how to recover from injury when no one else could. She held the line when men bigger and louder fell. She is overqualified for this division. Let her walk in and you'll remember why the quiet ones scare us most." Grapple Midwest Open. Saturday, light wind, cool but not cold. The air carried the smell of new mats and weak coffee from the concession stand at the front of the arena. Kara arrived early. She wore a loose gray hoodie, old sweatpants, and carried a brown canvas bag. No one paid attention to her, and that was exactly what she wanted. In the waiting area, the Valor Combat Gym group had already gathered. Bryce stood at the center, as usual, cap worn backwards, Academy-branded hoodie, laughing loudly with a few male students adjusting their belts. Claire spotted Kara, raised an eyebrow, then nudged another teammate. Did she seriously show up? Bryce glanced over. No greeting, no words. He turned away. Kara didn't join the team area. She picked a quiet corner by the wall. She leaned out her towel and began warming up. No noise, no show. Around noon, the PA system called female blue belts aged 35 plus to check the bracket. Kara walked over alone. No Academy logo shirt, just handed in her ID and entry papers signed by Master Bob Chavez. The bracket official glanced at the papers and nodded. "You're good to go. Final bracket's up in 20. Back in the Valor area, Bryce was instructing Claire and the others when an announcement echoed through the arena. "Attention black belt men's division. One of our competitors has medically withdrawn. According to the rulebook protocol, we will fill the slot with the top qualified alternate. Kara Ellis, please report to the mat officials table." The entire group turned. "That's a typo," right, one student said. "She's in the blue belt women's bracket," Claire added. Bryce froze. Then, I quickly walked to the coordinator's table. Kara also approached, her bag still on her shoulder. There's a mistake, Bryce told the coordinator, an older woman with sharp eyes. Kara Ellis is not a black belt. She's a white belt in our academy. She's not qualified for this bracket. The coordinator typed a few lines on her laptop, then looked up. Actually, she's been certified for provisional black belt status by retired Bob Chavez, U.S. Air Force, a recognized national instructor under Tournament Regulation 4.3. Silence fell. Kara said nothing. Her hand rested on her bag. Her gaze did not waver. Bryce's tone changed. This is insane. She's never trained at that level. She's going to hurt herself, a deep voice spoke from the stands. Bob Chavez stepped forward from the audience, black polo, cap in hand. She's trained people who outranked you, called her, and she survived more than what's on these mats. The coordinator nodded. And according to the bracket, shuffle, Mr. Calder, you're her first match. No one spoke for 3 seconds. Then Bryce laughed bitterly, growled, fine. Let's get it over with. They stepped onto the mat. Spectators started gathering. The story spread quickly. Woman from Valor Gym to face her own coach. She's not even listed on the advanced team. Did she sneak into the bracket? Kara took off her hoodie. Underneath, a plain white G with no logo, no patch. So simple it stood out in the arena. She tied her hair back, rolled it up her sleeves. Her arm revealed lean muscle, veins defined, not bulky, not flashy, but full of quiet strength. The referee signaled. Both bowed. Kara didn't look at Bryce. Bryce muttered as he bowed, "Don't say I didn't warn you." The whistle blew. Bryce charged in first, like always, closing the distance, grabbing her collar, trying to press Kara down. But as he lunged, Kara didn't back off. She pivoted, slipped her left arm out of the grip, wrapped her right arm tightly over his shoulder, planted her left foot to break his balance, and slid under, locking the arm bar in one breath. The crowd held its breath. Bryce thrashed, but it was too late. The sound of a hand slapping the mat 3 times, clear, sharp, helpless. The referee raised an arm. Kara released the hold, stepped back, and bowed. Match won by submission, time 13 seconds. The arena exploded. Claire jumped up like she'd been shocked. Another student swore. Bob Chavez nodded from the stands. Bryce lay flat, eyes wide, then sprang up, shouting, "She cheated." The referee raised a hand in warning. Kara didn't look back. The first clip hit Reddit within 10 minutes. Trimmed clean Kara Ellis. White belt defeats black belt coach in 13 seconds. Twitter named it #13 seconds of truth in the waiting area. Kara didn't return to the Valor team. She sat on a folding chair next to Bob, wiped her sweat, and drank water. No one from the team approached her. A junior sports reporter stepped up. "Excuse me, ma'am, how long have you been training?" Kara answered softly. "Depends who's asking." In the following matches, Kara didn't win the whole tournament, but she reached the semifinals, defeating 2 opponents with flawless tactical precision. At the practice mats, whispers spread, "She trains where Valor." "Are you sure that guy she beat? He's their head coach?" At the end-of-day press conference, Bryce didn't show up. A Valor representative gave a short statement. "We're reviewing recent developments regarding athlete conduct and internal evaluation standards." Clearly an image-saving move. On Jiu Jitsu forums, one post gained thousands of shares. "You mocked the quiet one. You forgot who taught you to be still before the strike. And now," she reminded you, "power doesn't shout, it executes." Kara went home, opened her laptop. Her inbox was full: coaches, academies, veterans organizations. One email came from the State Women's Center. "We'd like to invite you to lead a women's self-defense program, if you're interested." She didn't reply right away. That night, Bryce showed up late at the gym. Kara was packing her bag to leave. He approached, speaking like issuing an order. "You planned this. You embarrassed me." Kara looked at him, not angry, not cold, just calm. "I didn't plan anything," she said. "You did, the day you decided I wasn't worth training." Then she walked past him, didn't touch, didn't rush. Monday, 3 days after the tournament, Valor Combat Gym opened its doors like any other day, but the atmosphere was no longer the same. No more loud laughter from the group of men. No more Bryce pacing with his usual arrogance. And no more Kara sitting silently, wiping mats, with her earbuds in, cleaning up after class. She was gone. The Valor Management Board announced that Bryce Calder had been suspended indefinitely, pending investigation for discrimination, bullying, and violations of coaching ethics. The announcement was posted publicly on the whiteboard that all students passed by. Some read it and quietly bowed their heads. Others pulled out their phones and unfollowed Bryce's social media accounts right then and there. Claire was the first to leave the internal group chat. No one blamed her. She just left a short message. We let it happen. We all saw, and we stayed quiet. As for Kara, she didn't answer any calls from the gym. She didn't text anyone back. She returned to her usual routine, early morning walks, working at the Veterans Center, private weekend training with Bob Chavez and the small group of veteran fighters. But one thing had changed. On Wednesday evening, at the Franklin County Women's Center, Kara stood before a group of 12 women of different ages, from college students who had experienced harassment to single mothers once threatened by former partners. She wore a plain white G, no belt, no logo, just one thing around her neck, a silver dog tag, glinting under fluorescent light. "I'm not here to teach you how to fight," she began. "I'm here to remind you that you didn't give up, and that is a survival skill." The first class didn't start with physical technique. It started with standing still, in the right posture, holding your gaze, controlling your breath, not backing down, no matter who is watching. Within 3 weeks, Kara's program was fully booked. Nonprofit organizations began reaching out to replicate the model. A trauma recovery center for female veterans in Indiana sent an invitation for her to help design a curriculum that integrates martial arts into PTSD therapy. A small publisher asked if she would consider writing her story. And then one afternoon, Bryce Calder walked into the cafe where Kara often stopped by. It was drizzling. She was holding a cup of tea, looking out the window, as if she already knew he would come. He stood there, soaked from the rain, his eyes a mix of bitterness, defeat, and something close to regret. "You humiliated me," he said, without greeting. "You made me look like a fool." Kara set her cup down, looked at him directly, not with anger, not with coldness. "I didn't humiliate you, Bryce," she replied. "You did that to yourself. I just didn't stop you." He said nothing. There was nothing left to say, and she no longer needed to hear anything. 1 month later, at the statewide Veterans Rehabilitation Summit, Kara was invited to speak as the founder of the Integrated Self-Defense and Therapy Program for women affected by trauma. As she walked to the podium, the entire room stood. Not because Kara was a veteran, not because she had defeated someone on the mat, but because she had shown some battles don't need to be won to be victorious. At the end of her speech, she said, "I never wanted to be a hero. I just didn't want the wrong things to keep happening without being seen. They laughed at me. They pushed me off the mat. They called silence weakness. But silence is where I learned to listen. And from that, I chose the right moment to speak." The next day, a new handwritten chalk sign appeared in the window of the Franklin Women's Center. "You don't have to be loud to be powerful, but you do have to stand." Have you ever walked into a room and within the first 5 seconds, you knew you weren't welcome just because you didn't dress like them, didn't speak as loudly as them, didn't carry that fake confidence society likes to call normal? Kara Ellis didn't come to Jiu Jitsu class to win. She came to see if she could still hold on to herself when everyone else was trying to make her forget who that was. She never spoke about what she used to do, never showed off a military ID, never mentioned real battles. She just stood still and let the world reveal what it didn't want to see in the mirror. And in that stillness, she made the loudest voices reveal how small they really were. Maybe you've been Kara, left out of a meeting because you didn't talk the right way, looked up and down before anyone asked your name, told you were not ready by someone who never asked where you came from. Or maybe you've stood on the other side, laughed, doubted, thought, "What's that person doing here?" We've all been there, misjudged or judging. And the moment you realize that, it's the moment you start changing the world, one instinct at a time. If Kara's story made you pause, drop a comment. Share one moment you were underestimated, but stood back up anyway. Share if you've ever wished someone had stood up for you. And hit subscribe if you believe you don't need to shout to prove you're strong. You just need to stand at the right moment, because you'd be surprised how many others have stayed silent, waiting for someone to speak up for them. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.